but pretty much on average, this trend line is completely flat, right? I mean, it was 73 days on market in August of 23, and we're just a few days, maybe a week longer than that, 75 days, 80 days today. Hey, what's happening, friends? The market here locally and also nationally feels slow. It feels like it's kind of slower than it's ever been. Some people are still speculating about some type of crash potentially coming. And so I have some data here for you that we're going to look over the last 3 years, what the market is doing, and some key data points to give us some insight about the real estate market locally and nationally, and see if we can predict what the future is going to look like and what is coming in the housing market. So let's bring in the data here. The first thing that we're looking at is we're looking at from August of 23 to August of 25, right? So we're trying to kind of look over a multi-year period here to get an idea, because really in the middle of 2003 was like definitely when the market slowed down. Everything got very slow. And so is it slower today, or are there some key data points today that are different from August of 2003? And that's really what we're going to focus in on. And we're going to look at some key metrics, which is listings, price reductions, days on market, and pending sales. So looking at the first set of data here is active listing count. So we all know that we see that inventory has gone up dramatically over the last couple of years, and definitely active listing count is the most dramatic kind of data point when you look at the difference between the 23 market and the market today. And if you look back in Hawaii, we had about 3,200 listings statewide. This is residential listings statewide back in August of 23. Today we have almost 6,200. So 3,000 more active listings, active residential listings on the market today versus 2023. And so supply is basically doubled, right? I mean, that's really what it feels like, is that there is a lot more inventory on the market. We're definitely feeling that. August of 23 was kind of the end of the run, and it was the lowest amount of inventory that we could have possibly seen. So that was abnormal. That wasn't historically an average. We're definitely getting closer to historical averages. But if you look at overall, you can see the pink trend line is the national trend line and the number of listings on the market nationally. And our market in Hawaii has pretty much followed the national trend, as even nationally we went from like 800,000 active listings to over 1 million today over this 2-year period. So trends pretty much the same, but definitely number of active listings are way up over the last couple of years. And then what has this led to, right? The number of homes with price reduction. So a lot of times people are telling us anecdotally, they see online like, hey, looks like prices are coming down. I see lots of price reductions. And so this gives you the data month over month on how many homes that are on the market have a price reduction. And first, if we look at the trend is pretty similar, right? It goes up and it goes down, but the national trend very much follows the Hawaii trend, or the Hawaii trend follows the national trend. But if you look at really since the beginning of the year, January of 25, where there was almost 1,200 homes on the market that had a price reduction, we're just about there, right? It's about 1,300 today, 1,400 today. So not a big change over this 12-month period right here. It definitely is higher on average than previous years. I mean, there was about half as many homes on the market having price reductions, in the 600 to 700 unit range back in 23. But now that we have seen homes sit on the market longer, there are more price reductions to make up for that. So definitely slower, and lots more price reductions happening before homes sell. So that is a contrast between 23 and 25. If you're looking to relocate here on the Big Island, I want to share with you a resource that we put together. Over 80 agents from my team, expert agents here on the Big Island, put together a relocation guide that will help you evaluate all of the important factors that you want to take into account before you move here to the Big Island. School districts, healthcare, employment, all of the things that you got to think about, we put into one home buyer's guide that will help you figure out what is best when you start this relocation process here to the Big Island. So if you want this guide, just click on the link below, fill out the form. We will send you the guide for free. And if you want to take the next steps and have a conversation with us, we'd be happy to help. So how long is it taking for homes to sell? That's the next question, right? The median days on market. And if you look, interestingly enough, this is something, if you ask, I think, most informed observers, they would say it's definitely taking longer for homes to sell today than they did back in 23. Not the case, right? If you look at this, there is some fluctuation, seasonality over time, but pretty much on average, this trend line is completely flat, right? I mean, it was 73 days on market in August of 23, and we're just a few days, maybe a week longer than that, 75 days, 80 days today. So pretty much the same, no dramatic change. The trend line is pretty much the same with the national trend line. So not a big change in terms of the number of days, the median days that it's taken homes to sell. And this is very, very important for sellers to understand, is that, hey, it's normal for it to take 70 to 90 days for a home to sell. So 3 months on the market is a very reasonable amount of time. It could feel like a long time when you were expecting, your house to sell in 2 weeks, but that's no longer the case. So this has been very, very stable in terms of how long it's taking properties to sell. And these are residential properties. This excludes land sales, because a lot of times land sales skew this because they take much longer to sell. But this is just focused in on residential sales. So no big change or fluctuation here over the last couple of years outside of the seasonal ups and downs. And this is maybe the most important slide to look at that gives us some insight over the future and what's happening in the market. And that's pending listings, right? So pending listings are the number of listings that are currently under contract. So we're definitely seeing a much higher number of listings that are on the market. But if you just take the number of listings that are currently under contract and going through the escrow process and going through the transfer process, this number has been very stable, and this is a very good indicator that there isn't anything, there's no crisis happening, there's nothing crazy happening. Because if you look back at August of 23, there was 1,758 homes under contract that were pending. Today, that number is 1,717. So it's almost exactly the same. And if you look, there's been some fluctuation again with the seasonality. There's some fluctuation, very similar to the national trend line, but no big drop off in the number of homes that are transacting month over month. There are more homes in the market, and there's more homes that have to have a price reduction. But if you saw a big drop off here, where if we were at 2,000 back in 23 and we're at 1,000 today, that would be something that would be of concern, because you would be seeing a far fewer number of homes transacting, and that's definitely not the case. So overall, very, very stable in terms of the number of homes that are selling, even though there are more on the market, and days on market is pretty stable, right? We looked at that just now. There are more price reductions, and that's really a function of sellers having higher expectations than what the market will bear and really listing property for too high before it sells. So something to keep in mind if you are a seller, what your strategy is in terms of pricing is you don't want to overprice in this market, because buyers will wait until you reduce the price before they buy. And so overall, just some final key takeaways here. Pretty obvious. There's more choice because inventory has almost doubled. There's way more choice for buyers and a lot more competition for sellers. And like I just mentioned, sellers really need to consider what their pricing strategy is before going on market, because that can really affect how long it takes to sell, or if it sells at all. The market is cooling, right? I mean, that's definitely the case. There's definitely been cooling over the last couple of years, but it's not crashing, because we can see that those pending number of sales remain steady. And overall, there's opportunities really for buyers to gain leverage in this market, and sellers continue to need a really strong marketing and pricing strategy in order to get their properties sold. So there's definite opportunities on both sides. The market is stable. That's the short takeaway from all of this. And definitely there isn't any divergence from what's happening here locally in Hawaii versus the national market. We're still very much in line with the different data points and what's going on. So if you have any questions about this in general, or specifically about your property and your market, you can always reach out, Dylan@buybigisland.com, or you can click the link below. There is always a link to my calendar. You can book a meeting directly with me, and we'll definitely get an expert in the area that you're looking at of interest, and we'll get on a call and we'll do a consult with you. I always appreciate you guys watching. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments, and I'll get back to you. Have a good one. Aloha.